Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. It's absolutely crazy to me that Democrats win anything, and I literally mean anything, to constantly be so dishonest, to be crafting these clearly disingenuous narratives over and over and over again for the carefully crafted Democrat narrative to fall apart time after time again. It's crazy that they have any voters left if you really think about it. And here we go again, it's freaking Groundhog Day. Another disingenuous Democrat narrative completely falls apart. Republicans are the problem. Republicans are the problem, they continuously repeat. They're holding the American people hostage, they claim, by refusing to give us literally everything that we want. If the nation is to default, well, it's Republicans who did that to you, is what Democrats want to have you believe. Well, thankfully enough, no matter how many times the Democrats repeat these objective lies, it's simply not moving the needle. And the American people strongly disagree with Joe Biden's utterly dishonest framing of the situation. In other words, another win for Kevin McCarthy and the House GOP, and another big fat L for these dishonest Democrats. Let me show you guys what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright, so let's first start off with some context here. This is the White House's narrative. America is not a deadbeat nation. We have never ever failed to pay our debt. But MAGA Republicans are engaged in reckless hostage-taking by threatening to force America into default. It's dangerous and wrong. But this narrative is totally backwards, because the GOP under Kevin McCarthy's leadership currently control the House, and they've already passed a spending proposal. The person who's actually engaged in reckless hostage-taking is sleepy, creepy, piss-pants Biden, and the Democrats who refuse to negotiate. They've already passed a spending proposal. They've proposed cuts. That's the way government works. They control the House. You know, the House of Representatives, which is a legislative branch. The American people voted Republicans to be in that position because they want less reckless spending and out-of-control inflation and out-of-control government spending more money than it's bringing in. Yet Joe Biden and the Democrats have refused to come to the table, frankly, because they're being held hostage by the communists in their party like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the rest of these squad member clowns. Democrats need to accept reality. The 2022 election happened. They lost the House of Representatives, and so they now must make compromises. But instead, they would rather craft this disingenuous narrative that Republicans bad, do whatever the hell Bernie Sanders says, or else. Well, it's simply not working. And we have the data from CNN of all places showing that Democrats are way off the mark on this one. Take a look at this.
Our brand new poll conducted by SSRS shows that a majority of Americans, 6 in 10 Americans, want to raise the debt ceiling only if spending cuts are included as well. So this is the McCarthy point that he's been making all along. Remember, months ago, the White House was in this position of no negotiations. A majority of Americans say, no, you should reduce spending as well as raise the debt ceiling. 24% say raise the debt ceiling no matter what. Only 15% say do not raise it. Let the U.S. go into default.
The stance that Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the rest of these Democrats are taking only represents 24% of the population. 75% of the population want either to not raise the debt ceiling at all, which honestly I understand that sentiment. I mean, it would probably be devastating for the American economy, but I understand the sentiment of stopping the bleeding, and 60% want at least a basic compromise to cut spending. But what about the poor's people? What about our big government socialist dreams and ambitions? Well, flush them down the toilet because clearly the American people don't want them. It's basically as simple as that. The Democrats have become extreme. You know, again, another ridiculous narrative that Joe Biden keeps peddling, that he's cutting the deficit or that he's reduced spending, is complete bogus. In fact, he gets fact-checked online by Community Notes constantly. Here's another tweet from Piss Pants Biden. I'm proud of the progress that we have made. We reduced the deficit in our first 2 years by $1.7 trillion. That includes more revenue by asking the wealthy and large corporations to begin paying their fair share and cutting subsidies to big oil and big pharma. Readers added context that they thought people might want to know. The $1.7 trillion reduction was caused by previously planned expiration of COOF spending. Biden's actions raised rather than lowered the deficit. He claims that his plan is reducing spending when congressional budget analysis shows that if his plans are implemented the way that he wants them, will increase the national debt by $17 trillion in the next 10 years. years rather than 20. He reduced spending by $3 trillion out of the 20 that he was planning. The simple fact is the American people want to stop to the bleeding. They've seen the endless money printer go burr. Real estate prices continue to skyrocket, gas prices, everyday goods and necessities. The cost of living is getting more and more out of reach as the wealthy get richer and richer and richer. I mean, they're the asset class. They're the ones who are benefiting from the endless money printing, and the middle class and the lower class continue to fall further and further behind. They want to stop to it, and they elected a GOP House specifically to attain that goal. And the Democrats are refusing to come to the table, or at least they're making it seem that way as they pander to the woke left. Eventually, they're going to have to make some compromises here, and clearly they are. Here's a Korean John Pierre flashback of before and after.
He has been very clear. We are not going to negotiate over the debt limit. That is something that Congress should act on. I've always said that we are negotiating on the budget. I've always been very clear about that. I said that default is not negotiable.
We are not going to negotiate the debt limit, as they tell the American people that Kevin McCarthy is holding people hostage. And now all of a sudden, well, we are negotiating the budget, and we've always been clear about that. They lie about everything. There's never a straightforward answer. It's always some sort of political shifty game. They know they're wrong, yet they'll act sanctimonious, misleading the general American public that clearly want to see some budget reforms, while at the exact same time basically conning their own party. They're trying to make it seem as if they're putting up a fight. Don't worry, leftoids, we're fighting for this socialist agenda. We're with Bernie Sanders, who's not even a Democrat. He's a registered independent, if I'm not mistaken. We're working with the far left to implement these grand socialist ideas. That's what they're marketing to the Democrat base, when they know full well that when the time really comes, they have absolutely no option other than to negotiate with the Republican House. They literally don't have a choice. You know, Joe Biden keeps answering questions during press conferences that if the US is forced to default on its debt, that he doesn't think that he should receive any blame, that it's Kevin McCarthy and the GOP's fault, those MAGA extremists in the House. But they know damn well that they're going to be held accountable and they're going to take all the blame, the lion's share of the blame, if not all of it. They're fundamentally unserious people. They're liars. They should have came to the table day one. They had months to prepare for this debt ceiling deadline, to come together and find a bipartisan solution, but instead they're going to procrastinate to the absolute last second to rush something out so they can craft this MAGA extremist garbage narrative, and probably in an attempt to get more of what they want by creating a generally more desperate situation for both sides. It's once again politics above the will of the voter, politics above common sense policies. In other words, the typical Democrat modus operandi. I mean, what Kevin McCarthy is saying isn't crazy.
I would hope at the end of the day, when you would sit back and look, that the Democrats said they would never negotiate, that it'd just be a clean debt ceiling. I think those in America would say, good job. You know what? It's not that. So when you talk to your grandchildren, what are you going to tell them? You know what? There's hope. There's hope because they finally woke up that they got a spending problem. There's hope because there's people who are willing to do something about it, but not just do something about it, but fight for them. So what I want to tell you, the American people, I will not give up on you. This won't solve all the problems, but this is the first step, and I'm going to come back the next day and get the next step. So I would hope that we could get everybody on both sides out to vote for it, to actually put their partisanship aside and think of the grandchildren. Think of that child born today that got a $94,000 bill. How can you sit there and say, oh, I'm going to spend more of their money? Let's stop that. Let's make this economy stronger. Let's take care of the debt that we acquired, because we have a responsibility to pay it. And let's stop doing this by the deadline, worrying whether we're going to make it. We'll make better policy.
The irresponsible spending, the debt stacking for the next generation has got to stop. Yet this, what Kevin McCarthy just said, what you just heard, is what Democrats are referring to as MAGA extremism. I don't know what world we are living in. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Of course, you know that we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.